On this edition of the Left Bench TV, a big blow for the Maryland football team at halftime in Columbus.
Also, meet one Maryland women's basketball player with an interesting family background.
And we take a look at one Maryland team that's back in the NCAA tournament. The Left Bench TV starts now.
NCAA tournaments, Big Ten tournaments, and two of the top basketball programs in the country. It's fall in College Park, and we've got tons of Terps action for you coming up. I'm Cameron Doney.
Welcome to this edition of the Left Bench TV, your sideline source for Maryland sports. I'm Tino Quagliata. There was a lot of hype going into the season for the men's basketball team after returning the majority of last year's squad. So far, the Terps have met those expectations. Maryland's last game was Saturday against the Oakland Golden Grizzlies, and after a shaky start, the Terps took care of business. Jalen Smith and Daryl Morcell had it going inside. Morcell led the team with 14 points and 7 rebounds. Later on, walk-on Reese Mona hit 2 huge shots, and the team went crazy. Terps took down Oakland 80-50. The Terps sit at 3-0 on the young season and are now ranked 6th in the country. TLBTV's Noah Gross and men's basketball beat writer Brandon Simberg sit down to discuss how Maryland looks so far.
All right, guys, and Brandon, this team's been ranked in the top 10 this whole season, but they're pretty young. Who can you say has really stepped up as a leader?
Well, senior point guard Anthony Cowan is definitely the on-court leader right now. He isn't very vocal, but he definitely leads by examples and gets guys in the right place. And then on the defensive end, junior Daryl Morcell is much more of the vocal leader, getting guys in the right spots, getting the team organized, and just communicating on defense.
And then as far as the identity of this team, they're young, they're changing. What do you think the identity has been and what will it be moving forward?
Well, head coach Mark Turgeon has made it an emphasis to play much faster this year, and the team has exemplified that on the court so far. They have so much depth that they can kind of sub guys in and out and wear teams down with their speed. And
a big part of that depth and a big reason why Maryland was so highly ranked coming into the season was that freshman class. Who has really stepped out and who's made a big difference thus far?
Dante Scott, a freshman from Philadelphia, has been excellent so far. He's a forward who can guard multiple guys on the perimeter, and offensively he can shoot the three and rebound inside. Additionally, the Mitchell twins, Makai and Makel, have given excellent minutes so far. They really can give Jalen Smith a break when he gets tired and into foul trouble, and their size can create mismatch problems for the team.
Well, so far the freshmen and the rest of the team, they've really not faced any tough opponents yet. When is their first real test where they may be given a tough game later on?
Throughout November, they should be favored in every game, but then there's a stretch in early December where they play Illinois, Penn State, and Seton Hall, 3 teams who beat the Terps last year. So that's when we'll really get a chance to see what Mark Turgeon's young squad is made of.
Very young, but very talented. Ranked number 6 in the country are the Maryland men's basketball team right now. That's Brandon Simberg. I'm Noah Gross. Back to you guys in the studio.
Thanks, guys. The Terps will look to stay undefeated Tuesday night when Fairfield comes to College Park.
And while men's basketball season is just beginning, one Maryland team's postseason comes to a close. The field hockey Terps arrived at the NCAA tournament this weekend, ready to take home its 9th title in Maryland field hockey history. The team won its first game against St. Joseph's, but their season came to a heartbreaking end on Sunday. The Terps lost 1-0 in overtime by the hands of the Virginia Cavaliers. It was a back-and-forth defensive battle that saw senior goalie Noelle Frost rack up a career high of 10 saves and a couple of scoring opportunities called back for the Cavs. But the Terps were edged out after Annie McDonough scored off a corner to send UVA to the championship weekend. This is the first time since 2016 the Terps failed to make the Final Four.
Postseason play also continued this past weekend for the men's soccer, but the Terps did not have to travel too far. Ludwig Field hosted the Big Ten tournament semifinals and finals, but home field advantage was not enough Friday night for the Terps against top-seeded Indiana. Despite the loss, Maryland still has a spot in the NCAA tournament and will have a home match versus Iona Thursday night in the first round. TLBTV's James Mahoney and Brendan Hartlove have more from Ludwig Field.
All right, thanks, Tino. Now joined by men's soccer reporter Brendan Hartlove. So, Brendan, Friday night here under the lights at Ludwig, Big Ten tournament. Maryland just couldn't get it going against Indiana. What sort of went wrong for the Terps there?
They kind of struggled to get the offense going. I mean, their defense held strong for over 100 minutes into double overtime. Indiana had 22 shots to Maryland's, I think, less than 6 or so. And so it was really difficult for them to kind of find opportunities. But the defense came up big when it mattered. Nicholas Neumann, the freshman goalkeeper, 8 saves, new career high. And so they kind of, it was bend, don't break. They weathered the storm, but in the end, handball in the box. And it was kind of an unfitting end that a penalty kick while having 22 shots decides the game. So for Maryland to kind of continue going forward, you need to get the offense sparking just a little bit more.
Gotcha. And you've been following this team all season, and from what I've seen is obviously a lot of new faces from what was the national championship team last year to this season, but it still feels like it's the same recipe, so to say, in that it's a defensive first team. So how does this team, what is their key to success going into the NCAA tournament?
I think it's their ability to kind of play as a unit. The team has a really good chemistry about them. There's very few instances you see where they're not on the same page. It's kind of when there's issues, it's lack of execution. And so I think especially across the back line, like you said, last year's national championship defense didn't concede a goal in the entire NCAA tournament. This team's defense as well has been very strong. And yeah, there's a lot of injuries in attack and a lot of new faces, but they've found kind of bits and pieces that have come together to score some goals, but for them to have the success going forward is going to be the defense just kind of playing as a cohesive group.
And so now they have Iona on Thursday night and potentially a matchup against Wake Forest looming. How does the path look for the Terps in the NCAA tournament?
It's going to be a tough one. I mean, obviously they can't look past Iona, who won their conference tournament, and then Wake Forest is a very strong team, perennial powerhouse. And even if you look past that, I think it goes Michigan and then maybe Indiana again if all those teams get there. So a lot of difficult tests for Maryland ahead, and we've kind of seen them hang in with some and fall to others. Virginia, Audi Field, they're the #1 seed, so it's kind of hit or miss how Maryland's going to perform against some of these bigger teams. But again, you have to get past Iona, and then you can kind of build the momentum from there.
All right, thank you, Brendan. Back to you guys in the studio.
Moving on now from Ludwig Field to the Xfinity Center, where Maryland women's basketball just secured their 3rd win of the season. The Terps started off with a win against Wagner, but fell to South Carolina. The team bounced back shortly after the loss, just barely beating James Madison after freshman Ashley Owusu scored with 3 seconds left on the clock in a 19-point come-from-behind victory. The Terps are now ranked 9th overall in the current AP poll after their win against Delaware on Sunday. Well, it's no secret that the Maryland women's basketball has an abundance of young talent, and one of those young players comes from a basketball family that's larger than most. The Left Bench TV's Kevin F. McNulty has more.
Meet freshman Faith Masonis of Maryland women's basketball. A native of Spring Lake, New Jersey, Masonis is the 6th out of 10 children born to her parents, Ellen and TJ.
Growing up in the house with 10 kids, definitely a lot. It's a lot of fun. You have a lot of support around you 24/7. Even when you want to be alone, you can't be.
Since arriving in College Park, the freshman has had no problem making the transition from 9 siblings to 12 teammates.
It's a great area to be around, and it's 3 hours away from home, so definitely just having that aspect of it. It's definitely something that helps you in the long run, and it helps you to be able to become independent and just sculpts you into the person you are today.
Masonis has already proven herself to be one of the key role players for the Terps this season. The freshman has helped make the program a family environment, but when she's out on the court, she's as fierce as anyone else.
Faith is, she's that high energy, that spark off the bench for us. And, we're just so lucky, from all the intangibles she brings to the table.
Masonis, along with fellow freshmen Diamond Miller and Ashley Owusu, has set the program up for long-term success. And you can catch them all season long here at the Xfinity Center. For Left Bench TV, I'm Kevin F. McNulty.
Masonis Big Ten Player of the Week, Ashley Owusu, and the Terps will be back in action Wednesday night as they take on the George Washington Colonials at home.
Staying on the court, the Maryland volleyball team went on the road this weekend, going 1-1 against Indiana and Purdue. Friday night, the Terps dug themselves out of a hole. After being down 2-0 against Indiana, the final set, led by junior Nicole Alford and redshirt sophomore Katie Myers, the Terps were able to fend off 8 match points from the Hoosiers before getting the victory 3-2. Saturday night against Purdue proved to be a challenge for the Terps. After a 2.5-hour game the night before, the Boilermakers swept the Terps 3-0. One bright spot for the Terps was junior Erica Pritchard, She led the team with 13 kills on the night. The team will return to College Park this weekend, where they play Illinois Friday night at 8 p.m. and Northwestern on Sunday at 1 p.m. Recent losses for Maryland football has taken a toll on the future of the team. Rachel Hersheimer is outside Capital One Field with the latest. Rachel?
Thanks, Tino. Maryland football only has one win in conference play this season, and recently 2 incoming freshmen for the 2020 season have decommitted. With 6 Big Ten seasons under the Terrapins' belt, this team has not had it easy. Maryland football is 3-7 so far, making it tough to recruit local talent, one of head coach Mike Loxley's main goals.
There's a lot of talent in the area. Maryland can't seem to ever capitalize on that.
It started with a Twitter post from 3-star cornerback Rashad Battle, who posted on Twitter, quote, "I am 100% reopening up my recruitment and decommitting from the University of Maryland." Following in his footsteps, DeMatha Catholic High School's offensive lineman Jordan White announced his decision to decommit during halftime when Maryland was down 42-0 at the half against Ohio State. White said, quote, "I believe it is in my best interest to open up my recruitment process and decommit from the University of Maryland to make sure that I am making the best decision for myself and my future."
Obviously not a good situation when you have players decommitting from coming to this school.
The left bench reached out to the Maryland football team for comment, and they said, quote, "Per NCAA rules, we are unable to comment on any recruits until they sign on National Signing Day." Loxley hired former DeMatha High School head football coach Elijah Brooks with hopes of adding local talent to the team, like running back Anthony McFarland Jr. and safety Nick Cross, who all came from that school just 2 miles from UMD.
I like Coach Loxley, but everybody said he would be a good recruiter from around here, and this isn't a good look for him either.
But now the clock is ticking with only 2 games left for the Terps to showcase their talent to future players as the team wraps up their first season under the roof of the new local coach, Mike Loxley. And Maryland only has 14 recruits for next season, with 5 from the DMV area. Reporting outside Capital One Field for the Left Bench TV, I'm Rachel Hersheimer. We'll send things back to you in the studio.
Thanks, Rachel. Maryland currently sits at 11th out of 14 teams in the Big Ten, according to 247 Sports in 2020 football recruiting rankings. Maryland Wrestling is looking to make some inroads with their first-year head coach, Alex Clemson. It's still early in the season, but the Terps sat at 1-1 as a team and took a trip up to West Point, New York on Sunday night for the Black Knight invite hosted by Armin. Maryland finished 5th out of 8 teams in the invite, which was highlighted by number 1 ranked Penn State, number 19 Michigan, and the host number 24 Army. King Sandoval, Jahi Jones, and Philip Spadafora all really showed out, placing 3rd in their respective weight classes. Kyle Jasensky finished 4th, while Hunter Baxter and Michael Doach finished 6th. Spadafora's only loss of the day came to the number 1 ranked 174-pounder in the nation, Penn State's Mark Hall. The Terps will be back in action on December 6th at the Matttown Open at Lock Haven University.
It may be safe to say that Maryland is home to both the best women's and men's lacrosse coaches in the country. Inside Lacrosse named women's head coach Kathy Reese and men's head coach John Tillman Coach of the Decade for their respective teams. The women's team was also named Team of the Decade. Both Reese and Tillman have had their fair share of success during their time in College Park. Reese has led the Terps to 5 national titles, while Tillman helped secure the men's first national title since 1975. Both coaches will return for the spring season, looking to continue their success with their highly ranked recruits.
Gymnastics season is fast approaching, and things are looking promising for the Gym Terps in the Big Ten this year. Left bench's Ethan Stam sat down with Katie Marr to talk about what to expect from the squad this year.
Thanks, guys. So, Kate, last year, Maryland Gymnastics made it to their 2nd NCAA regionals in a row, and it seemed to be a successful year. What do you expect to see from the team this year?
Well, Ethan, the Gym Terps have been building up momentum for 2 years now, and it's looking to be the year they make themselves known conference-wise. I think the people that are going to lead them there are going to be seniors Kirsten Peterman, Alicia Farina, and Tiara Wright. The numbers these 3 put up on the vault, the beam, and bars speak for themselves, and the team has 17 all-around gymnasts that are such strong athletes that they're going to do great things under head coach Brett Nelligan.
And of course, we can't be talking about Maryland Gymnastics without mentioning standout junior Audrey Barber. What can you say about all she's brought to this team since coming to Maryland?
Well, Audrey Barber has been nothing short of a star in her time at Maryland. In her first 2 years, she's competed in the all-around in every single meet she's played, and she's posted team best of above 39.40. Not to mention, she's led the team to both of their NCAA regional berths. Barber consistently posts far above 9.8s in all of her events, and that does a lot for the team when it comes down to winning their meets. The sky seems to be the limit for her, and it doesn't look like she's going to stop anytime soon.
And in other big news for the Terps, it was announced that they've been invited to take part in the Big Five at Elevate the Stage. What do you think they're going to have to do to separate themselves against some other really good teams?
Well, this meet is exactly the reason why this season is looking to be so huge conference-wise for Maryland. It's one of the premier invitationals in the nation, and they're going to be going up against big teams like Penn State, Minnesota, Michigan State, and the team to beat for everyone, Michigan. In order to succeed, they're going to have to use their strengths, and the good news is this team has the numbers that proves they can compete. The meet isn't until late February, so that provides them with 5 conference meets beforehand so they can get things going and see how it works in conference play. By determining what works in their new starting lineup and just letting their standouts continue to do their thing, it should prove that they can show everyone what they're made of.
All right, thanks, Katie. Back to you guys in the studio.
Thanks, guys. The gymnastics team will kick things off by hosting their annual Red-Black meet on Friday, December 5th at Xfinity. Yeah, so the Maryland gymnastics team has a lot of highlights this year.
Yeah, definitely. There's a lot of highlights, and there is actually a lot of highlights going on in College Park right now as well. And let's go to our top 5 plays.
At number 5, men's basketball walk-on Reese Mona hit this long 2, and in the very next possession, drained a 3 in the same spot, sending Jalen Smith and the rest of the bench into a frenzy.
And on the road, UVA attempts to score on Maryland field hockey, but goalkeeper Noelle Frost puts a stop to it.
Back to basketball at number 3, Aaron Wiggins has been a key contributor to the scoring so far, including this one-hand jam off a nice feed from Akeem Hart.
Another incredible save by freshman goalkeeper Nicholas Neumann during the men's soccer game against Indiana Friday night.
And for the number 1 play, freshman standout Ashley Owusu snags the steal and takes it up the court, delivering a bounce pass to Diamond Miller for 2. Here it is again. Look at that spin move sending the defender flying. What a great all-around play from Big Ten Freshman of the Week. That leads us to our Terp of the Week, the sophomore guard who matched a career high of 23 points, Taylor Mikesell. Mikesell has responded after scoring no points last week versus South Carolina. She has shot a combined 7 of 15 from behind the arc in the 2 games since, including 5 3-pointers last time out versus Delaware. The 2019 Big Ten Freshman of the Year is starting to get into a groove early on in the season.
And speaking of career highs, our pro Terp Jake Lehman scored 21 points during the Minnesota Timberwolves game against the Houston Rockets on Saturday. This marks Lehman's new season high during his first year with the Timberwolves. Lehman also finished the game with 5 rebounds and 2 assists. Earlier last week, he also scored 16 points against both the Spurs and the Pistons.
Thanksgiving break may be around the corner, but don't worry, there's still time to catch lots of Terps action before heading home for Turkey Day.
Let's check out what's on tap for the Terps this week. On Tuesday, the number 6 Maryland men's basketball team will be hosting the Fairfield Stags at 8:30 and will air on the Big Ten Network if you can't make it to the Xfinity Center.
After coming off a huge 99-55 win against the Blue Hens, the number 9 Maryland women's basketball team will be hitting the CP Hardwood Wednesday against the George Washington Colonials at 7.
And men's soccer starts the NCAA tournament on Thursday night at 7, hosting Iona at Ludwig Field.
Busy sports action on Friday. The Maryland basketball team will be playing against George Mason at 7 p.m. and down the hall, the volleyball team will be hosting Illinois an hour later.
The final home game for Maryland football is kicking off Saturday at 3:30 against Nebraska at Capital One Field, and it will be airing on the Big Ten Network.
Sunday, there is Maryland women's basketball taking on the Quinnipiac Bobcats at noon, and another volleyball game is scheduled for 1 against Northwestern. You can watch that game on BTN. There will be a lot of exciting action coming up this week for Maryland sports.
Definitely. And that's all for this edition of the Left Bench TV. Thank you for watching. I'm Cameron Doney.
And I'm Tino Quagliata. Be sure to keep up with all of our coverage on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at The Left Bench. We will see you next time for a final show of the year.